Hello everyone, this is Douglas E. Welch and welcome back to another container garden update. As you saw in the opening, more than likely if I kept that footage, it's hot today. Oh my goodness, is it warm out here. It's well over 100 degrees. So this may be a shorter episode than usual, but I do have a couple things I've got to get done. First and foremost, I've got to get these epiphyllums from my friend planted into their pots. Here, I had to go get some succulent, some cactus-based potting soil just to make sure that they did as well as they could in here. My friend Carrie passed these along to me, and what's nice that she's actually written what color they are. This is a magenta one, and this is a light pink one right on the petals. As I mentioned in my blog post, epiphyllums are pretty easy to care for and pretty easy to root. You see there's really no roots on here at all, but Carrie informs me on good authority that if I take some of this potting soil here, and this is again a cactus, what's it called? It says cactus citrus palm mix, and if I put that on here in these pots and then just plop the epiphyllums in there, they should do just fine. She is a big proponent of these plants. She loves the colors and she loves the easy care of them as well. So again, we're just reusing some pots I had here in the garden, and I'm just gonna fill those up. Now what I'm planning on doing with these is, if they do take and they get start to go really nicely, there's a couple places in the garden I plan on putting them. They want kind of partial shade. They do okay in some, they do KO shade, but partial shade seems to be best. And so I have some spots on my patio I might put some, or back here on this actual, you can't really see it. Let me see if I can do this real easily without screwing everything up. On this big blank wall behind me here, I'm thinking of putting up a hanger, or perhaps using the trellis that I have there to make a little pot wall against this wall, just to have things like this. Now, after we do, all we do is we take the bottom part of the epiphyllum paddle and we just stick it down in the soil and kind of firm it back. That is it. Let's do it with the light pink one here. I'm just gonna wiggle it down into the soil pretty well, refirm it around that, and then off camera I'll water these in a little bit. This is supposed to be very free draining soil, so it's not going to hold a lot of moisture. It's going to keep them damp but not wet. As with most succulents and most cactus, they don't like to be wet, but they do like to have a little bit of moisture in there. So here's our second project for today. Try to get this done before we burst into flame. Thankfully the sun is to the west behind me, so we've actually got some shade here on the potting bench right now. It's actually been a little too warm on the potting bench, a little too much sun since we took a tree out, so I think I'm gonna have to move stuff around a little bit. But my friend Carrie also sent us across with the epiphyllum. She sent us, and I'll show you how she labeled these for us. She sent us 3 types of scented geraniums too. We had talked about these on our trip to the Southern California Spring Garden Show, and I mentioned how much I liked them, and she said, well, I got tons of those. So the first one to show you here is the this one. Actually, we're going to go ahead and plant right up. We don't even have to root him. He already rooted on his own, so we're going to plant him up separately in its own little pot. This, she says, the round leaf ones are a sour apple smell. I do love scented geraniums. They're actually pelargoniums. I do love the smell of them, and you want to put them where you can brush against them, where they might be by side of path or in a pot by the front door or something. All I'm going to do here is just make a nice, actually I'm going to take some of the soil out here, and this is just normal potting soil, your average everyday stuff, not the cactus mix, but we're just going to settle him right in there. Since he already has roots, he should be fine. We'll again water these all in when we're done. Now the other ones though, we are going to have to take cuttings, and reading online about cutting geraniums, it says with the scented geraniums you want about a good 3 inches of stalk in the soil to get a good root cutting. So it looks like we maybe have 3 or perhaps 4 off of this one cutting here. So this is the thin-leafed one. She says this one is a rose scented. So what we're going to do is we're going to just snip the base off, give it a nice good start here on the bottom. We're going to strip some leaves, probably all the leaves off, and I think, let me see, you can always use that first knuckle of your thumb for measurements. So 1, 2, about 3, right there at the crook. So we'll stick that one as our first cutting. And I realize I need to cut for a second and go get my rooting hormone just to give these perhaps a little better chance of getting started. Okay, so I went and got my rooting hormone. I'd actually forgotten that in the shed when I came out to shoot the video, but there it is right there. So we'll prep that like that, and we'll find our first cutting here. There he is, hidden down amongst everything. And again, we took a good 3.5 inches. Now, what I'm understanding is it's at these leaf nodes is where the roots are going to form. So we want to make sure those are all exposed to the rooting hormone. Tap off the excess. And then I prepared these 2 larger containers, again, just with normal potting soil. And we're going to do what we did with the rosemary earlier. Is we're just going to poke them right down in the corner here and kind of put 4 in this one pot. So again, we'll come here and we'll take we'll stick with the thin leaf here for this first, and we'll take another, let's see, let's go to here. A funny story I always tell people, because I was not known as the best student in high school. I did okay. I was pretty much a B student. But the only class I ever got straight A's in was botany. And it was a botany course taught at a college level by a wonderful science teacher at the time, Mr. Sexton. I'll give his name if you give him a little shout out there. It was such a good class. I actually ended up tutoring my fellow Biology 1 students in college with my botany notebook, because it covered a lot of the same material that my botany course did. Now, the other reason I bring that up is this was actually the way that our botany club raised funds to go on our annual trip to a garden in the area. You had to pay for the buses and everything, of course. So we would get all the cuttings from the local garden club when they pulled up their geraniums at the end of the year. This was back in Ohio. They would not overwinter, and so they pulled them all out of the ground and they gave us all the old plants, which we then did exactly what I'm doing now. We would make cuttings, we would pot them up. Actually, we used to start those in sand, I believe, if I remember correctly, and then once they got to a certain size, we would bring them on into other pots. And by the time spring rolled around, we would have a collection of half-gallon, or in some cases 1-gallon pots that we were then able to sell to the townspeople in my small town of about 2,000 people for their own gardens for the next season. Many of them also went into a school garden that we had out front of the school, the high school, as well, that anything we kept for ourselves. But part of my job, quote unquote, during the Christmas holidays was to take the keys, go to the school, go to our inflatable greenhouse, and make sure all of these seedlings were properly watered and maintained over the Christmas holidays. So I actually got fairly good and knowledgeable at doing geraniums. So we'll see how this goes. And here we go. Here are our 2 pots. We've got the, I think this was a sour apple, and then we got the some of the rose, and then the unknown variety in there as well. Actually, here's the sour apple ones. I guess they're the round leaf ones. So we'll see how all these do. I thank my friend Carrie very much for offering up her cuttings, and in this case, a rooted seedling already. And I'm looking forward to having these to spread around my garden and to smell beautifully as I walk by. That's it for this container update. I think I'm going to go in and have a nice cool beverage. We'll give you a look at the actual front yard containers probably next week. Things are kind of slow right now. We did get some strawberries, but beyond that, everything is just kind of settling due to the heat, maybe perhaps even bolting. I've got to harvest some lettuce, and that'll make a good video to put up next week. Until next time, I'm Douglas E. Welch. You can always find us on the website, Gardener's Notebook, douglasewelch.com. There you'll find a Gardener's Notebook as well as everything else that I do. I hope you enjoy these videos. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Leave your comments on YouTube, Twitter, Google+, Facebook, wherever is most convenient for you. I love hearing what's going on in your garden. I love seeing your projects and what you might be working on in your potting bench and elsewhere. So please let me know. Until next time, keep digging.